Washington lands an impact linebacker.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into a special bonus edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That's Lars Hanson. He's site editor with Athlon Sports' Inside the Huskies. I'm the site editor with Huskies Wire. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, as we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And Lars, we're kind of at the everydayers with this special bonus episode to talk about Washington State linebacker Tarriq Buddah Al-Uqdah, who has announced his commitment to Washington. And we're also going to get in some other transfer portal names to watch, some other things that are going on in that world, just again on this short bonus episode. But Lars, I just right off the top, it's not even the Wazoo thing, even though that plays into it a little bit. But this might be my favorite take of the portal class so far for the Huskies.
Yeah, so I remember when Buddah was coming out he was a premium guy, so premium LA 7-on-7. I forgot where exactly he went to high school in Southern California. Its name has escaped me off the top of my head, but I just remember kind of when Wazoo got him as a commit, I'm like, ooh, that's going to be like a really sneaky good commit. Like, again, I know fans don't want to hear this, but it's just like, hey, so Washington offered him out of high school for kind of some context here. So I remember talking to him back when I think it was Rivals at the time. And he was like, yeah, like Washington's a top 5 dream school for me. Like, I'm really interested in this program. And I'm like, yeah. So, West Coast kid, all that sort of makes sense. I actually took a visit to Washington when Bob Gregory was the linebackers coach for people that remember that recruiting czar, shall we say. Bob, we might have to do a podcast on that one day, the Bob Gregory recruits, but like, I don't think he gets enough credit for what he did in terms of like the guys he secured. And
that's certainly, so I don't disagree with you. That's a conversation for another day.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is the reason why this is such a good portal take and why I agree with you is like, no matter where he was coming from, this is a good portal take. This is a good player take where like, if they were recruiting this kid out of high school and it's like, oh, he's only a 3-star. It's like, again, turn on the tape. I implore you to turn on the tape. Like that is, I understand, and they're like, oh, hey, why are we getting Wazoo guys? It's like, oh, by the way, check the score from September. That's why you're getting them. But, that being said, yes.
Well, no, yeah, I'm glad that's the way you put it. Wazoo's leading tackler, 3 picks, 4 fumble recoveries. I believe 6 tackles for loss this year. This dude is a playmaker, and he just finds the football. Where we were asked the other day about, hey, what Washington's linebackers starters look like right now. And we said, Jacob Manu and Xe'ree Alexander. I think that Buddah would end up starting over Xe'ree, and I think he's going to be a fantastic piece of the rotation. But this is the guy that you really want, where you look at, and it's not just the on-field stuff, Lars, where you look at the off-field as well. He was one of their vocal leaders. If you just search his name, you look at all the press conferences, you look at everything that he's doing off the field. This is clearly one of the players that they rallied around. And yeah, as you said, this is one of those ones where you throw the rankings at the window. He's whatever ranked linebacker in the portal. I truly don't care. I could care less. I could say that about a lot of these guys, but this is the name at the top, just like at the very top of that list, where it's the passion, it's the energy, it's the physicality, it's all the different things that he brings, plus the tape, plus his ability to always be around the football. Is he going to miss a couple of tackles when you look at the PFF numbers? Yeah, for sure. But at the end of the day, Robert Bala's coaching, plus everything he's shown that he can bring to the table. Yeah, I'm all in on this.
The comparison here is Jonah Coleman of defense, the heartbeat, the guy that really, I know you might think Jacob Manu because the Arizona guy. I think as a 1-year kind of rental. Now, again, to be fair, Tarriq, I think technically does have 2 years as a redshirt sophomore, but I would imagine, after a good redshirt junior season, if he did end up declaring, would not be surprised because he's been in college for 4 years at that point, would be no fault to him. But I think this also does allow a path where he can say, you know what, maybe I'm going to play for 2 years here. I'll be a star next year. And then after Manu goes, I will be the guy next to Zadrius and Jordan Epperson and then people like that, where you have enough depth to kind of build around and move forward with it. But you look at the PFF, I mean, you mentioned that. It's like, yes, it does have 17 missed tackles. Okay, that slightly concerning, but then you look at the rest of it. He's the only other guy who has a 70-plus grade, aside from David Gusta, in terms of defense, run defense, and coverage. It's an 88.9 grade in coverage.
Yeah, he's
So this
really
is a great. So this is why this isn't just hey, he'll go like be a MSO, find the ball in that way. It's like no, the pairing of the safeties that they've gotten and now the linebackers. It's almost like the coverage schemes. Like John and Vinny are going to cook this fall.
Lars, we got so much more we want to get to with this take. Right after message from our good friends over at FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players to score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players to score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. My personal favorite, Jamar Chase, anytime touchdown. Never fails for me. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Lars, what else is it about this take where I look at this and it's everything we said, the heartbeat aspect, the production, the playmaking ability. There's so much that I know, you and I, when we prepped on this before the show, that we were just really excited about when we heard this news was coming. Shout out to Scotty Graham on Twitter, by the way, just gonna leave that one there. But I look at all this and I say, if you're developing a front seven that you want to be able to compete with the best teams in the Big Ten, the best rushing attacks in the Big Ten, this is one of those guys that you look at and you say, yeah, I truly believe that he could be one of the most productive linebackers in the conference.
Yeah, well, and I think actually now as we're kind of unpacking it a little bit more, the other reason you needed this take is what you've been saying about Jacob Manu, where it's, we expect him to be healthy for the start of fall camp and things like that, but just in case, you have another kind of third linebacker where you could either have Xe'ree, scoot in, and you could have Buddah and Xe'ree be your two starters. You could have Manu and Buddah. You can kind of do a lot of things with this linebacking core, which I think is a good sign for, what the needed was at the position where it's like, okay, well, you could just take two and be happy and say, now we'll go get another D lineman or we'll go get a corner or we'll do whatever we want to do in that respect. I think it was good to go get one more linebacker because, yes, you're talking about you also lost Kamori, but it's like this isn't replacing Kamori. This isn't replacing really either Alfonso or Carson. It's kind of just strengthening the position as a whole because when you look at what he did, I can't necessarily equate to either one of those two. Maybe a little bit of Kamori, maybe a little bit of Zoe in terms of what he was able to do because in Wazir's defense, 65 snaps at slot corner, 500 in the box, but was also a middle linebacker, right inside. So he could play all over the defense. Like that to me is what's intriguing about this. And so you have plenty of options. So in that sense, he's a Kamori. But the reason why it's a good take also on top of everything is it's not a 1-year rental. That's why Jacob was okay as a 1 year because look, we just need you as the veteran guy. Xe'ree, I think, is going to be a junior. I think
he's got 2 years.
Right. So then Buddah and Xe'ree both have 2 years. And that's kind of the perfect progression where no matter what your answer is with Hayden Moore and Devin Bryant, you're safe. There's enough progression to where, okay, whether Bryant or Moore work out or not, or whether they be special teams guys, however they end up impacting the program, this season and beyond, you're in a good position to say, well, look, now you have the Ephesians Price-Out conversation. Now you have the Thaddeus Dixon conversation where, hey, you could go pro or you could come back and kind of have one more solid season in the scheme.
I like where you're going with that. The one thing that I wanted to say is, depending on how this coaching staff feels about this defensive line, where if it's, hey, we're confident in them, we like where it is, that's one thing. But if you also say, hey, we really wish we could use another body, David Gusta, who we talked about on our Tuesday show, is the number one name that comes to mind for me. But if you say, hey, we're not totally confident that this is the group that we think can really shut down the run, this is the kind of guy that can come in and play that cleanup role. Where having Jacob Manu, having Xe'ree Alexander, plus all these younger bodies, all of a sudden it all fits together really, really well, in my opinion. Where the more I look at that, the more I say, yeah, I see what the vision is here in terms of the run defense, because all of a sudden when you combine this with just the roles that we expect some of these younger players to play, whether it be Zadrius Randy-Sale or Jonathan Epperson or Donovan Robinson or Hayden Moore and Devin Bryant, whoever it is you want to say, if you are truly confident in this group, and just from the way that this coaching staff clearly feels about Robert Bala and his ability to coach, the just the more I believe that, yeah, they feel very confident having these linebackers do a whole bunch of different things in the scheme. We saw what that looks like in 2024, and assuming that's going to stay the same in 2025, it's going to do nothing but continue. And we're going to see these guys utilized in a whole bunch of different ways, and having these experienced guys to potentially clean up some mistakes from the front four is a really important part of this as well. But Lars, we got to get some other transfer portal news as well. Right after a message from our good friends over at Game Time, because Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift because Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier, which is great news for anybody who's looking for a concert in the area, a comedy show, or if you're like me, Husky basketball, the Kraken, the Seahawks. There's so many fun deals you can find over on Game Time because with Game Time Picks creation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. With all-in pricing, you can toggle this feature and it shows a total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. And with seat views, you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets for Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So, Lars, since the last time we recorded, and just full disclosure, this is something that hasn't happened yet, at least at the time of our recording. May have by the time it drops. That's a story for another day, but that's just the life of podcasting. Johntay Cook got a crystal ball to Florida. And this is one where Washington has struck out on a bunch of their top receiver targets right now. I really like the young bodies in the room, but getting an experienced option to help Damon Williams is really important as well.
Yeah, because your receiving core right now, if you run it back, is Denzel, Rashid, and for the sake of argument here, I'm going to throw Audric Harris in there.
Sure.
Audric Harris, kind of Kevin Green, interchangeable, because Kevin Green does have a little more experience than Audric, but Audric did burn his red shirt this year. And I kind of was always wondering, why did they do that? Now the math is making a little more sense, because now you're looking, it's like, well, imagine if we had 6 redshirt freshmen, 5 incoming true freshmen, a redshirt junior and a redshirt senior, redshirt junior, whichever one Boston is. I can't remember what class he is at this point. But you're looking at it like, okay, there's the 2 upperclassmen and really 1 who's played at Washington. And that's no disrespect to Kevin Green. It's just when he got hurt in fall. And again, we both liked what he did in fall camp. I thought he was going to have a pretty solid season before he got hurt. I mean, Jedd said he would come back after the USC game or around the USC game, and that ultimately didn't end up happening. And so I think I'm not saying they kind of punted on the season, but it almost just seemed like, okay, let's just kind of make sure everybody's healthy in 25. We'll make sure, we'll get a running start on the year. But it really means you need another receiver in this group. And that's kind of what's interesting about, if Johntay Cook does end up going to Florida, and then we see Omega Blake go to Arkansas. We see Justice Williams go to Colorado via Utah. And I don't even know if he actually made his visit to Washington. And so you look at all these guys and it's just like, okay, what, it used to be like, when we talk about Aaron Butler signing with Texas last year, it's like, man, there's a lot of receivers in that room. There's a lot of young receivers in that room. If I'm a guy that's a junior or above, how do I not look at the Washington receiver room and think, yeah, I got talent. There's no way they're going to hold me back. There's no way I'm not going to find field time and snaps. And you look at Giles, led the team with 74 receptions. Denzel got the touchdowns and the yards. But there's plenty of reps to be had. And I do wonder if that's kind of playing a little bit into this receiver conundrum where you look this season and how many times did I implore you and beg you to say, how many times are we going to see a 3-receiver set?
Right.
And then towards the end of the season, we saw some 3 and 4. I think even a 5 wide against Oregon at one point, I think.
We definitely did.
Because of the pass rush, that might have been a little more understandable. But you just look at it and think, okay, if this is the offense you're going to run, I can see that. But then the problem with running the 2 receiver sets for 8 games out of the season was you can't really say, hey, at Washington, we're going to go 4 wide. We're going to go 5 wide. We're going to 3 wide as a base. Whereas Ryan Grubb, it was 3 by 1, 2 by 2. It was a little bit, and you also had the horses to do it.
So I hear where you're going with that. Where that's certainly a possibility here. And that's the plan for the future. I think that part is very, very obvious in my opinion, because I did the math. And if you want to include Kevin Green, where, you can get him a medical redshirt for this season, but he's still gonna be listed as a junior next year. So I kind of excluded him from the equation in that part. There are going to be 8 players that are sophomores or younger on this Washington roster. And we know the Jedd Fisch mantra is to play the young guys. And there are so many different ways that I want to say this, but I understand why people might look at that and say, oh yeah, like I for sure can come in and do X, Y, and Z right away, but I'm going to have to fend off these young guys the whole time. Like I look at, whether it be Jason Robinson, Raiden Vinesbray, Chris Lawson, whoever it is that you want to say, like there are so many guys in that class. Like Justice Williams is a guy that I'm really, really excited about. I think he could be a major playmaker. It's unfortunate that, he was hurt and had to miss most of the season this year, but there are so many guys that this staff has, Justice and Jason Robinson, obviously were here when they came in, but that they've also recruited that have a really high upside. I look at it and I say, for sure, if you're Johntay Cook, why wouldn't you want to come in and be that guy this season? But looking to the future, this feels like the last year they might need to do that. It might need to look into the portal for a wide receiver. But at the same point, it's something we talked about with Jordan Dwyer, where he goes to TCU, where that was the guy that you and I really expected to end up at Washington. We've heard some things about, hey, that market for Jordan Dwyer, hey, he was a real hot commodity in the transfer portal. So that's an interesting addition there. But I look at it and I say, I feel like a lot of guys might have been turned off by Washington in this cycle because they weren't going to be wide receiver one. And we know that was occupied by Denzel. And that's kind of the exciting thing when I look at it with all these young guys at the same point, where it's, you talk about maybe not going 3-4 wide as often. I think that's certainly a plan in, 2026, 2027, whatever, because of all these young bodies. But the more I look at it, the more I say it's still vital to get one of those guys in there. We thought it might have been two when Cook and Dwyer were on campus at the same time. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case anymore. But the more I look at it, the more I say, I'm excited about the future of the room, but right now, you certainly want to make sure you land at least one guy. So that's something we're going to keep an eye on. But Lars, for right now, we're going to get out of here. As always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everybody else tuning in. And whenever we drop a special bonus episode like this, it's real important to make sure that you get it as fast as possible. So we want to make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating the channel with new content every single day. So make sure you click that like button, click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them right down below in the comment section. And if you're audio only, please leave us 5-star reviews. It does help us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.